So I just wanted to make a quick video, and this one's going to be talking about the codependent narcissistic dynamic. Now, you could actually summarize a lot of dysfunctional relationships down to this singular kind of intergender social dynamic. Usually it's very, very common, and a lot of people don't really understand it well enough, I don't think. Now, typically speaking, just to give a general overview of both kind of personality archetypes, if you want to call it that, the codependent is usually a more giving individual, is more empathic, more compassionate, more polite, is very self-sacrificing in nature. The narcissist in its own right is more self-serving. So they're more about, it's my needs over everyone else's, I'm more important than everyone else. They have a very grandiose sense of self. They seem to be more hyper-dominant. They seem to be very aggressive in nature, usually convey a lot of negative emotions like hatred, jealousy, envy. They're very socially, very exploitive. So usually these two go hand in hand. One person is usually more taking, the other person is completely giving. So these two go hand in hand and it feels right. And the reason it feels right oftentimes, well, this kind of sounds a little bit Freudian, but it's still very true, that oftentimes we're recreating the relationships when we were younger because it feels familiar. The word familiar stems from the word family. So we recreate these relationships sometimes. People call this the repetition compulsion, the tendency to want to repeat these relationships because it feels familiar, there's an element of feels relatively comfortable at the start. But if you are in a relationship with an extremely narcissistic personality disordered individual, unfortunately you'll probably go through something what's called narcissistic abuse. This way you become completely depersonalized. They'll strip you of your identity, rid you with toxic shame, guilt, completely destroy your sense of worth and ultimately your personality. You become so enmeshed with the abuser, you don't actually see the abuse. It becomes so normalized that it's almost, you don't even see it. It seems so obvious that you miss it. So that is kind of I've talked about a lot of the manipulation strategies and stuff like that in other videos, but that's the kind of codependent narcissist dynamic. Now, how to prevent this? Now, a lot of people like Ross Rosenberg and people like this have talked about this called the human manic syndrome, with these two opposite kind of archetypes being kind of polarized to one another. The way you actually get out of that dynamic, if you are on the more codependent end of it, is to start actually making yourself your mental point of origin and putting your needs on a higher priority. Learning to set boundaries, confront people, say this is what I want, I don't like it when you do this, I prefer if you did this instead, and set a consequence, things like this. Learning to negotiate, learning to say this is where I end and you begin, like I can't be responsible for all your problems and this and that and the other. So this is where the codependent really has to really level up and upgrade what I call their prototype personality. So the kind of adapted child role that you grazed up with in childhood isn't going to be fully functional now in your adulthood state. Now, a lot of these tendencies you're going to have to start shedding off and starting to become mentally more healthier, putting yourself as your mental point of origin. So, this is what I want, this is what I need right now. Learning to know when to set boundaries, getting better, putting yourself first, taking care of your health, what I call empowered self-care, coming from a place of strength with your self-care. It's not this kind of overly obsessive health and fitness regime. It's kind of looking at health from the World Health Organization, the World Health Organization's perspective of what the definition means, having social, mental and physical well-being, and having synergy between all of them. So having a balanced lifestyle, trying to make yourself, again, like I said, your mental point of origin, very, very important. So that will start rebuilding a stronger sense of self, and it will start rebuilding strong self-esteem in the individual. At that point, the codependent will be less vulnerable to a narcissist. They need someone they can manipulate those weak boundaries, who doesn't have the life in order, who doesn't know about all these manipulation strategies, which I go about on the videos, which I'm also doing a blog post on at the moment. If you don't have that, it makes it very, very difficult. It's kind of like the phrase, the map is not the territory. If you don't understand the terrain, it makes it very, very difficult to kind of navigate through the social realm with greater ease, and you're more vulnerable to being seen as prey. You have to, kind of like what Lao Tzu said, he says, in order to know thy enemy, you have to become your enemy. So you have to ingrain a little bit of their awareness within yourself so you can spot it in other people and if they're trying to manipulate you. So hope that makes sense. Hope you guys have enjoyed that video. Have a good day and subscribe.